It's a brand new day. Hey. Wake up every morning and say, it's a brand new day. Hey. Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, taste those.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Garden Diaries. We're so happy that you're here with us. We have enjoyed getting to know y'all, and we're so happy that you're spending your time with Megan and I. And thank you so much for continuing to watch and subscribe. So wherever you get your podcast from, continue to do that because that's how we can stay connected. So, Megan, we got a really special guest today.
We do. Melissa, welcome to our podcast.
Hi.
We are so excited that you have joined us today.
Excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Okay. My name's Melissa, and I grew up here in Pensacola, Florida, for a majority of my life. And then after high school, I graduated and was like, let's just go see the world. So then I decided to go to school in Alabama. So really, did I see the world? No. But I did move like 2.5 hours away from home, went to college in Troy. Then I moved to Georgia and...
Wait, you're missing a really crucial part to your story.
What am I missing?
Melissa actually lived with us for a good portion of her adult life.
I did. That was in between Troy and Georgia. So I actually lived with Brittany for a year.
Yeah, I mean, my kids call her their sister. Like,
Yes. That's
how much you've impacted our life. And I mean, not only do I see you as like a really amazing person and a best friend that I call, but I sometimes do see you as my other daughter, my older daughter, my adopted daughter. So it's pretty cool.
That is so sweet. I love your kids. They're literally amazing, and they literally are like my siblings, truly. And you know this because we would fight like siblings. So it just was so great. So I did live with Brittany for like a year or so, and then I moved to Georgia. Did a residency program up there, got my master's in seminary, and then I moved to Texas, was there for a little bit, worked for a church out there, and then I am back in Pensacola. Who would have thought? Not me. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to be back in Pensacola, be back home. Actually, fun fact, Megan's my boss. So I work for Megan, and I absolutely love it. She is literally the best boss, along with Liz. Shout out Liz. But Megan is just incredible, and just what you've built, you and Liz have built, has been just, I'm happy to be a part of it. So, yeah.
Well, we are so thankful you're a part of our team. We couldn't have done this last few months without you. So, and we're excited to see what the future holds. Hopefully you work for us for the rest of your life.
Maybe.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty gritty of the podcast, we're going to ask you some fun questions to get things going so people can know you a little bit more, not so on a more fun level. All right, first question. You ready?
I'm ready.
After a long day, what is your favorite way to relax?
Oh, my goodness. Honestly, I love coming home and, like, taking a shower and, like, decompressing that way, and just, like, not that the days are bad or great or phenomenal, just like washing the day away. And then Mom and I actually like watch shows together, or we'll cook dinner together, or just hang out together. And my father is there as well. Shout out David. But it's fun to like decompress, and it's a simple life essentially of just coming home and like just being. So yeah, I love to like shower. Very into
I feel
hygiene.
that. I will not like eat dinner until I've showered.
Right.
I know. Zach cracks. It cracks.
I can't. It's just I don't have to worry about anything after my shower except for eat and go to bed.
Yeah, but then you get dirty because I'm a very messy eater. So
That's first world problem.
That's you.
If I don't shower after I eat, I'm gonna go with some like food in my hair
Right.
to bed. So I take a shower right before I go to bed every night because I want to get in my sheets clean.
Right. So I'm the same way, in the sense of I need to shower before I go to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I get home and I eat or whatever, I could fall asleep like in the den or in my bedroom, and I will wake up and go shower. It will be 2:00 in the morning, and you'll hear the water turn on, and it's me. I'm taking a shower because I'm not getting in my sheets dirty.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
yeah, that's what I do.
All right, Brittany, you got a question for her?
I got a really interesting question.
No.
And honestly, I was like looking up the questions, and this is a question that I kind of want to ask everybody that I encounter now because it's a really cool question. I think it says a lot about somebody, so I really need you to answer it correct, okay?
Okay.
So if you were to know that you were about to get stranded on an island and you can only take 3 items, what would they be?
I would bring the Holy Spirit is with me, so that doesn't count. I would bring the little water filter thing, so I could always have clean water. Probably like, is this TMI? I bring a clean pair of underwear. Y'all, I mean,
Just keeping it real.
just keeping it
one,
real.
though, like, you
Not
only
one.
bring-
I think I would if they said like your one item could be like unlimited, I'd be like unlimited pairs of underwear. That would be nice. And then probably vegetables and fruit that I could take like the seeds from and like make my own little garden so I would never go hungry. I feel like that's really smart.
Yeah, I honestly, like, you actually gave really practical answers. Like, me thinking, I'm like, I'd bring a fan, but, like, there's no electricity. There's no electricity, and there's no, like, where to plug it in. Like,
Right. Or what if the batteries die?
then I'm dead.
I could see you standing there and like it just slowly, and you're like, no, 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 no. I could see it, and I would just on my island with my little binoculars. Maybe I bring binoculars. I would be like, just brought a fan.
Eating your vegetables.
Eating my
staring at
vegetables.
me.
Yeah.
And I'm starving, eating nothing because I brought impractical things.
You brought a
Yeah.
fan.
I'm going to bring a boat so I can get off the island.
Right.
Well, no, like, you can't bring, like, a boat. These are, like, items, like, things.
You can bring an inflatable raft that fits in your pocket.
I'm like, how far away from land are we though? Like, can we
I mean,
see?
That's when we
We're
trust the Holy
analyzing
Spirit.
the question.
Right. I bring a boat.
You didn't say how big the items had to be.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, would I bring an air mattress? Because like,
You could float off the island.
but I could also use my 1,000 pairs of underwear to make a pallet. But then those get dirty. I don't know. That's what I would bring. I think I'm gonna stick by those 3 things. Make a little garden.
So one thing I have to interject really quick, just because this is something that we've talked about a lot in the culture of living in the South. Can you explain to me what a pallet is?
A pallet?
Yeah.
Blankets on a floor with a pillow.
Okay.
Right. You never been at a sleepover and your friend doesn't have space for you in their bed, so you make a pallet.
You make a bed.
No, you make
You
a pallet.
get like blankets.
A pallet is like those wooden crates that they ship things on.
But we
That's
live in
a
the
pallet.
But in the South, so many things mean different things. A pallet isn't just a pallet. A pallet is also like the random things you find during like a friend's sleepover to make a little bed on the floor so you can sleep.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
2 against 1.
What do you think? What do you
A
think?
fort, a bed,
A
a blanket fort.
A blanket fort.
The fort
No,
is
I'm
going over you. The
I'm
pallet you're
sleeping
sleeping on.
Yeah, I made a little pallet for me to sleep on. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
South.
Okay. Back to your questions, Megan.
Okay, this doesn't necessarily go hand in hand, but it's funny that you asked that, and then you mentioned about having unlimited supply of underwear.
Right.
If you can have an unlimited supply of one thing,
Oh gosh.
what would it be? But you don't have to be on an island, so this is just in life.
So I don't know. I think my new hyperfixation right now is Alani News. Am I saying it right? Hopefully. The little energy drinks. If I could get the like either the Orange Kiss or the Kim-Aid on unlimited supply, I think I would be content in life, honestly. I feel like that's the wrong answer.
I feel
There's
like
no
those are
wrong or
bad
rights.
for you. I don't
Yeah, but isn't everything bad for you eventually?
I mean, not knocking him. I'm just saying, like, Mike
Yeah.
drinks a lot of Red Bull. Shout out to Mike, by the way. Mike's my husband. Y'all heard him on the podcast. He literally does everything for this podcast. Sets up the cameras, edits. Like, he is the behind the scenes. So shout out to him. Love him. He's the best. But what I was going to say is he drinks Red Bull. And today he was like looking at the ingredients of Red Bull. And he's like, this is good for your skin. And I'm like, that probably counteracts everything that is in a Red Bull because everything in a Red Bull is terrible for your body.
It tastes so good though. Shout out to blueberry Red Bulls. So good.
Those are good. The June berries.
Not the June berries, the blueberry ones.
Oh, the June berry is what he likes.
Oh, blueberry all the way. all the way.
Okay.
And then tropical. And that's about it. I don't venture out. One thing about me is I'm a creature of habit. So if I
Same.
like it, I'm a drink it or eat it or whatever until I'm tired of it, or forget about eating or drinking or whatever.
I'm also a creature of habit. I've literally ordered the same Subway sandwich since 6th grade. So
What is it?
it's an oven roasted chicken sandwich with lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, mustard, oil, and vinegar.
I love that. I'm an Italian girly till the day I die, truly.
I don't like any condiments on my sandwich. I don't do any mayo, mustard, nothing. Like, I like it dry. Like, why do I want soggy bread?
You like,
But
we're not judging.
How do you chew?
With my mouth.
Anyways, moving on.
Okay,
Oh my
next
gosh.
question. All right, if you could choose one game show to be on, like TV game show, and they called you and were like, "You're in, Melissa," which one would that be?
The first one that popped in my mind. Do y'all remember the show where the people had to like stand on the platform and the things came towards them and they had to fit the shape?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
That must be some
Someone-
millennial, like
No, it was
young
like
people show.
you had to like stand like, oh, sorry, Megan, stand in a certain position. I didn't hit Megan, I hit her thing. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about? No,
No.
that or Family Feud. I think
Oh,
I would
Family
crush
Feud's a
it
good
on
one.
Family
Are
Feud.
you talking about like back in the day when we had the temple? Do you remember the show on Nickelodeon?
No, it's like they stand on the thing.
Legends of the Hidden Temple
No.
with the guy.
No idea what you're talking about.
No, this show, you stood on the platform and it would be like the outline. It was like a styrofoam board and it would be cut out. Mike's nodding. He knows what I'm talking about. And they would be like in a pose, and you had to pose, and the board like went past you, and if it didn't
No.
pass you, like then you ended up in the water, or you broke the board.
I'm thinking like Ninja Warrior or something, but that's not it.
My kids watch a YouTube show where they do that and they throw it in the pool and they have to like jump in the pool, and if they break the styrofoam, they're out.
So it's like that, but like standing up and a crowd's watching you, and you can't fail. But like I said, I need to figure out the name, that or Family Feud. I think I would be funny. Like, I think I would be funny, but kill it on Family Feud.
Who would be your family on Family Feud?
I don't know. I feel like Mom would be so smart. Like, she would have like the number one answers each time, but she would like miss the joke, which she is really funny. Shout out Lawrence. She is really funny, but I think it would like the joke would fly over her head and I would have to like explain it afterwards. Dad would just be happy to be there. So honestly, he could be an audience member. I think you would crush it. I think Mike would crush it. How many people play in Family?
I think it's 5. I think it's 5.
Well, I don't know who the fifth person would be, but I think it would be fun.
I think Addie would be a good choice.
Oh my gosh, Addie would be like, Melissa, sissy, what do I say? I'd be like, this is what you need to say. But no, Addie would be fun. Or Kins. Kins would be really funny.
Oh gosh, her outlandish
Right.
answers would just be off the wall. We would lose. It'd be like, all right, Megan, bring it on home.
All right, last question. What's your most embarrassing story from your teenage years?
Oh,
Not to throw that out there, but
When one time I went on a blind date, it was a double date, but it was also a blind date for me. And we went jet skiing and tubing at the same time. So the jet ski was pulling the tube. And the guy I was going on the blind date with, him and I were on the tube, and my friend and the guy she was on the date with were like on the jet ski. Well, there's like this little sand hill near the beach, and we ended up parking like the jet ski near it. Well, what had happened was I took in so much salt water, like, you know, you're having fun and you're like, oh my gosh, so much fun. Da, da, da. I was taking in salt water and we had no water. Well, we ended up like hiking this like mountain of sand, and we get to the top, and I remember I looked at my friend and I was like, I don't feel good at all. Like, I feel dehydrated. I think I'm going to throw up. This is embarrassing. I'm on a date right now. And she was like, you're fine, you're fine. Well, I literally stand up, like we're at the top of this little mountain. I stand up and kind of like almost fall over because I'm like, oh, like I took in so much salt water and we have no, like the waters were at the jet ski, which was like a hike back down. Well, the guys come up and they're just like, what's going on? And my friend was like, Melissa does not feel good at all. And I like, you could see it, like the color had left my face. Like I was just not feeling good.
Oh no.
Well, the sweet guy that I was the blind date, whatever, he was actually a cheerleader for a really big SEC school. And no, ACC, sorry about that. And so he was strong. But the problem was he actually might have been like slightly shorter than me. And he goes, hey, Melissa, just jump on my back and I'll carry you back down the little sand mountain. Gentlemen. The other guys are running to get water with my other friend that she was on whatever. And I'm just like, okay, he was a cheerleader. So like, he's strong. I can see he's strong. Y'all, I jump on his back and we like tumble. Like he falls and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'll walk down. And he's like, no, it's okay. He ended up like, I got back on and I was a limp dog. And then I remember they're like, Melissa, do you want to get on the jet ski and ride back? And I was like, oh, and then my friend was like, no, I'll ride on the jet ski with her date. And so I ended up back on the tube to get back to our cars. And I never talked to that guy again. But moral of the story is make sure you always pack waters and close your mouth while you're tubing because you will inhale salt water and it just... Also, don't hike a little sand mountain dune thing and not bring anything with you. So I remember that story vividly. That was my like icebreaker story. Anytime I like met with students or anything, they're like, what's the most embarrassing or like what's the funniest thing that happened? And I always think about that story and just the time that I was just too heavy for this guy to carry down. It's fine.
Well, we just wanted to warm you up a little bit and get to know you. So thanks for being honest and transparent and answering our questions. We want to kind of dive in. You have a very amazing testimony, and obviously I'm privy to it, just the relationship that we have. But I wanted you just to share a little bit about where you're at now in life. And we have spent many times on my couch till 2 a.m. talking, and a lot of growth has happened in your life in the last year. I'm so incredibly proud of the person that you are and the woman that you are. You just have completely impressed me, and God is definitely using you in such huge ways. So I just wanted you to share, like, are you content in this season of your life, or do you feel like God is calling you to something else?
Yeah. First of all, you're so freaking sweet. Oh my goodness. I need to just carry you around so you can hype me up everywhere I go. My story is, I feel like, all over the place and so dysfunctional at times, but when I look back, I see the goodness of God through it. Even in the moments where I feel like he's not near, he's still like just so good. I grew up in the church from a young age. I joke and say I'm the one that got our family into church because the church that we grew up in, or I grew up in, put on musicals for the kids. And I saw one musical that I was not in and said, Mom, we're coming back so I can be in the musical. But we grew up in this church and it was absolutely just amazing. My mom is the spiritual head in our house, and she really stewarded us like the best of her abilities. She did an incredible job. And around 6th grade, I had a call to ministry. Very young. I didn't even know what a call to ministry was. All I remember was going up to my youth pastor at the time, and I was like, I think I'm being called into ministry. And like literally walking away being like, and I'm going to go eat dinner now because we're at camp and this is just what it is. And he actually called my mom and was like, hey, Melissa has this like really big call on her life. She might talk about it or she might not when she gets home. But it's crazy because in the call to ministry, a year later, I feel like I fully surrendered my life to the Lord. It was during like, we called it Remastered Weekend. And I truly felt like the Lord was like, you are either with me or not with me. And I was like, I've been living a lie, like putting on a face for everyone. And a big part of my story is like the perfectionist of being like the good Christian girl. I didn't grow up super sheltered, but I grew up not knowing a lot of things. I knew a lot about the church. I knew a lot about just God. Like I had a lot of head knowledge. And so I remember in high school, like I did everything quote unquote right. But there was always just discontentment in every season I was walking in. I remember that from a young age of like middle school going into high school. And I remember I looked at Mom one day when I was in my senior year, and senior year is your big year of like figuring out what you're supposed to do with your life. And I had long forgotten my call in ministry. Like I had even forgotten that I even said anything. And so I remember I looked at her and I was like, if I don't leave Pensacola, like I'll stay here forever. So I want to go to school out of state. So like I said earlier, I went so far away and went 2.5 hours away, and I attended Troy University. And I think those were the most pivotal years of my life. A lot of my story, and you know this, a lot of conversations we had revolved around Troy and my experience there. And I tried to keep up the facade of being the good Christian girl in college, but I was still discontent. Like, it was just this thing in me that I was like, this can't be, like, what life is all about. And so my freshman year, I tried to keep it up as much as possible, but then going out of freshman into sophomore year, I kind of just, my faith was not built in the Lord at all. My faith was built in, like, head knowledge that I had. But when people start questioning you, or people start asking questions, or people start to quote unquote debunk stuff, I kind of was just like, well, if God is so good, like, why is all of this stuff happening? And I just kind of completely turned away from the faith. I was in a sorority, I partied, I drank, like, guys were a big thing, a big part of my story, but it was all kind of done like in a secret place. Like, to everyone, I was a good Christian girl, but behind the scenes, I wasn't living that life. I wanted to live the life that I lived, but I was still discontent in what I was doing. Nothing could satisfy me. And so instead of seeking after the Lord, because he brings contentment, I just use my discontentment to be like, well, if he can't figure it out, then I'll figure it out on my own. And so I explored literally every single avenue of just, again, getting into stuff that I shouldn't have not been getting into, but no one knew about it because I kept that like face up. But it wasn't until my senior year, and I had really hit a point where I truly was like, there has to be more to life than this. Like, what do you mean I'm graduating and I'm supposed to start a career? Like, there has to be more. Like, this can't just be like the end, like, and then I graduate and then what do I do next? And I remember I was walking out of the math and science building, and Troy is a really big international school. And so you can hear languages from everywhere. And it was like the Lord was like, hey, I want you to look up and like look around and like think about what you hear. And it's the different languages, and you see different kinds of people, and everyone is so unique, and just culture and just all the things. And the Lord was like, it was almost like he was like, who's going to steward that flock? And I was like, I don't know who, but I'll let you know when I find them, because I didn't think it would be me. Again, forgetting I had a call in my life at a young age, but I was so far removed from that I was just like, I'll find the person for you, and I'll tell them that you got a word for them. And it was almost like he was like, no, I almost choked on my spit. Sorry, guys. We keep it real up in here.
We do that a lot.
But it was one of those things where it was like, no, it's you. And I remember I called my old youth pastor and was like, I think I'm being called into ministry. And they're like, we've been waiting for this call. Like, we knew, but you had to realize that it was your call. And so that's when I moved back home. I moved in with Brittany and her family. And it was like a year of like, I thought I was going to be a missionary nurse, y'all. So I went back to school, and I worked in a hospital here, and
During 2020, when COVID...
Yes. So I worked on ICU, and I watched the floors change from like ICU floors to COVID floors. And that was just insane. Just something that seemed so far away was like right in our faces. And I was still going to school, and Brittany can attest to this. Like, we had so many conversations of like, I feel like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I started looking at different residency programs, different internships, just trying to like, just so discontent where I was, trying to find like where the contentment was. That's where I stumbled upon this residency program in Georgia. I moved there for 2 years. They were affiliated with a seminary, got my master's in Christian leadership. Like, I, in my mind, was like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Shortly after I moved to Texas, I was a youth pastor out there. And this past October, resigned from that job and moved back home. And still the story, not even to this day, but when I moved back home, again, you can attest to this, just discontent, like just didn't know why nothing was working. And what I realized was the Lord just wanted to meet me in a place where he could bring satisfaction and contentment in the smallest of places. I mean, if you would have asked me 2-3 years ago, like, how do you feel about moving back home? I would have been like, heck no. Home? No, I'm going to see the world. And now I'm here, and I find contentment truly not even in the day by day, not even in the seasons, but in the hours, in the minutes of just, thank you, Jesus, for sustaining me this far. And thank you for how much you'll sustain me, like, in the next hour, and then in the next hour, until the next day, until the next. And it's crazy because in the past years, I feel like I had everything. Like, I did well in school. I went to seminary. I was working for a church. I was doing all these things. But there was just this discontentment, which discontentment often leads to the opposite of the fruits of the Spirit. And so I had a lot of pride. I had a lot of bitterness. I had a lot of anger, frustrations, like being upset. And in my discontentment, I thought I knew what was best. I thought I knew, well, God can't fix this, so I'm just going to do it on my own, which led to even more, like, quote unquote consequences of just my actions not leading me down right paths, or thinking I knew better. Or when something went against my pride, I would be like, I don't like that. But now I am back home, living. I have the dearest of friends, and she just talked about the importance of a simple life. And I truly live a simple life. And the contentment kind of bleeds into all areas of my life now. Now, I'm not saying that I have I never have discontentment. There are moments in the day where I'm like, Lord, what do you have for me? And that's like the big question right now in my life is, Lord, what is next? Like, what do you have? What do you want me to do? And I've never, I feel like, ever had that conversation or those requests for him, because I thought I always knew what was best. And I was scared that if I left it up to him, it would be a lot different than what I thought I knew was best for me.
Do you feel like the world gives you this persona or this lifestyle that you have to live up to, and that's why you were discontent, because you saw your friends or you saw people that you follow on social media? I think social media can be such a hard thing for us because you only see what people want you to see, and you don't see the struggle, because everybody struggles. It's just it's a private struggle. It's not a public struggle, unless you are one of those unfortunate people that their struggle is out on the internet. But I think we need to normalize that. Do you feel like that's where a lot of discontentment came from, was like yearning to be in a different spot because there was other people in your age group or your friend group that were in a different spot?
Yeah, I think truly from a young age, the strive to be perfect in literally everything that I did came from wanting to be the best in everything that I did. But there's always someone or people 2 steps ahead of me. And that started with sports. Like sports, I needed to be the best on the team. But when I wasn't playing to the potential or living up to the potential, or I made a mistake, it would be the most minor mistake. That discontentment of just like, well, I'm not good enough. And so therefore I need to find something else to do. And I need to be the best at that. And I joke all the time and say, like, I'm a jack of all trades. Like, I'm really good at a lot of things, but not great at, like, one thing. And I used to be, like, upset or discontent or angry in that because I would watch some of my dearest friends be phenomenal in one area. And I was like, I want to be phenomenal in one area. And so, like I said, from a young age, I wanted to be perfect in everything that I did. I wanted to be the perfect Christian. I wanted to be the perfect student. I mean, I strived for straight A's. I remember when I got my first C in college, I thought it was the end of the world. First of all, C's get degrees, but also strive to make good grades. But I remember, like, that led to me when stuff started shattering around me, when I realized I truly was not perfect. Like, everything shattered around me, like, in the worst way. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do whatever I want now. But no, the world, like, you know how many influencers I watch and I'm just like, gosh, they live, like, the perfect life, especially Christian influencers, which was hard for me for a while because I was like, they're just so on fire for God. And I do not feel like what they're feeling. Like, what do they have that I don't have? And the Spirit is so good and will call you out. And it wasn't that I was like, I'm just so annoyed when I watch it. It was more of I want that. I want the fire that they have, the contentment that they have. And I'm so angry and bitter that I didn't get there. But the whole premise is, like, the Lord will get me. He will sustain everything. His grace is sufficient. And so I didn't have that growing up. I was like, I need to sustain myself. I need to be perfect for myself. And that way other people won't question when I walk into the room. Other people won't doubt what I can bring to the table. It was always striving for more. But when we do it ourselves, there's always going to be 2 or 3 people in front of us. And so it's like, do we live in that discontentment of just like, well, I'm not the best? Or can I just be like, Lord, thank you for giving me what I have now, because I know eventually you'll bring me to what you have for me later.
Yeah.
But yeah, the world is crazy.
I think in this day and age, like, we are hit more, I think, with discontentment because we see it more. We see what other people have more. I feel like I think back to whenever I was younger, I didn't have a cell phone until I went into college. And so I didn't see.
Bless your
I know.
heart.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't allowed to have one until I could pay for one. So
Good parents
I know.
of yours.
And I will be implementing that with my children.
Amen.
But I didn't. The people who you coveted their lifestyle was the rich kids at school.
Right.
It wasn't these, like, multi-million-dollar people on Instagram. And I feel like we're just immersed more in the world because of social media. Not that it's it can be used for good. Like, this is something that it can be used for good, but it does have, like, its downfalls because we are immersed in it and we see it. And something that you were saying with talking about contentment, I think a big word that coincides with contentment is trust. And I think Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him and he'll direct your path. And I think a lot of times we forget that very tiny little word, all. And so it's like, we're just like, okay, God, you can have this piece of my heart, but this, I know what's best in this situation. But if we trust in him with all of our heart, he will direct us. And sometimes that's in a season of waiting. And that's something that can be so hard. But I think we've mentioned this. It was either in our small group or in a previous podcast. I can't remember. But if we trust the Lord with our eternity, we should be able to trust him in the day-to-day. And that's something that I have to keep reminding myself, even, like, right now, because I'm going through some stuff right now, and it's like, okay, God, I got to remember that, to trust you. So,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What would you say to, like, let's say there's a listener out there, maybe it's a young woman or an older woman, and she's in a place of discontentment, and she's really struggling to find the goodness and the grace of God. How would you advise her to move forward in her walk with the Lord and not to give up, but to pursue him stronger?
Right. I feel like, girl or guy, I'm literally with you. That is something I'm, like, currently learning myself. It's just, again, it's not being content for the day, being content for the season of life that I'm in, it's literally by the hour of just like, Lord, sustain me, remind me why you have me here, remind me what you are doing. But my encouragement, what I've seen at least work for me, is I am so honest with God of just like, I don't feel you near me. I don't, which a lot of it is like, for me at least, is feelings based. Like, I want to feel the presence of the Lord, but which I know like feelings can be fleeting, but it's like a head nod or something. But in that, I surround myself with people that truly know me best and know my heart best and know what what I want to strive for in the Lord. And they are the ones that bring wisdom. Again, great friend. She talked about like discernment and wisdom go hand in hand. And sometimes I don't have the best wisdom. I wish I did. I have the discernment, but it's like, what do I do with what I'm feeling? And so I literally go sit around people that are much wiser than me. And I feel like just in this time that I am in right now, the Lord is using other people to speak to them through me, because I just might not be in a place right now where I can directly hear him and take what he's going to say and be like, all right, sounds great. But when it comes through like another person, or they say something that they're learning, I'm just like, that is so good. And it makes me sit and reflect and take the time. I don't know. It's the honest conversations with the Lord of just like, this is what I'm feeling right now. But I also will remind myself of what he has done and what he's taken me out of, what he's redeemed me from. Those moments, I think, I feel like contentment breeds the fruit of the Spirit. And so when I have those moments of like, Melissa, remind yourself of where you are right now. I'm content because I am experiencing love by my family, love by close friends, love by people who are willing to call me out, who are willing to be honest with me, people who are willing to go into the valley with me and come out on the other side with me. I'm experiencing joy in my job, joy in just who my, again, Megan and Liz, amazing bosses, joy in just who they are as human beings, joy in the people that I get to interact with at this job, peace, knowing that right now the Lord has me, like, there's no urgency. I felt like in discontentment, there's always an urgency to get to the next spot, because I'm like, well, I don't feel comfortable in this position anymore, so I need to find the next position, or I need to find the next thing, or I need to be good at this now, or, okay, that's not my stitch. So, like, it just was a constant me moving. But the contentment has allowed me to get the fruits of the Spirit a little bit. What's going on? Contentment has allowed the fruits of the Spirit. I get to see them kind of in my life in different ways, but also with the fruits of the Spirit, I get to be content, if that makes sense.
No, that's really, really good. I think one of the things that you touched on that I think is so important, and if there's somebody out there that's really struggling, I pray that you find people that can be honest with you. You and I personally have had really, really honest conversations, and we've gotten points in our friendship / relationship / mom-daughter, whatever. It's a very weird dynamic, but it's a great one. Like, it's a blessing. Yes. But we've gotten points where we don't talk because one of us is frustrated with the honesty that the other person has given us. But we always come back because we know that person always has our best interest at heart. And I think it's so important, and we've talked about this before, Megan, to have people in your corner that are going to call you out in love. Oh, yeah. Right? I think heart posture is so important when you're in a relationship with somebody, be it a friendship, be it a marriage. Like, your heart posture has to, number one, come first. Is it with the Lord, or is your heart posture coming from like a malicious place? And I can honestly say the people that are in my corner, their heart posture is not to bring me down, it's to lift me up. Even though sometimes the things that they're saying really, really hurt, I need that. So I would say if you're out there and you're really struggling right now, one thing we hope this podcast will help with is finding a place where you can come and be in fellowship with other women and be honest and vulnerable. Like, Megan and I are here, so if you need someone to pray with you, or you need to get connected in a church, we know great churches here in Pensacola, especially one here at Marcus Pointe. But maybe you're in a different state. I think it's super important for you to have people in your corner to pray with you, to love you, to stand beside you, because we're not meant to do life alone.
Right. I think too, contentment, it will truly bleed into all areas of your life. And for me, like, the biggest one would be like relationships and like dating and all that stuff. And I am an elder Christian single girl.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can we just talk about how she's saying she's elder? She's not 30.
I'm not. I'm almost there though. I'm almost there.
Oh, heavens to Betsy.
Listen, I'm ready to be in my 30s, low key ready. But
you are not elder. You are right where God wants you.
Exactly.
In the season that God wants you.
And to touch on that, I think one thing that breeds a lot of discontentment, especially for young Christian or women in general, is when other people, we might be content where we're at in our season or in our time, especially when it comes to relationships, and other people, for whatever reason, have, maybe it's their own discontentment in their life, but they will project that onto you. I know a lot of people, my sweet poor mother, will get women that are like, what's wrong with Melissa? Like, why is she's so much older? She's had students that are getting married before her. Why is she not dating? Why is she not like actively like going on dates? And Lawrence, shout out, is so quick to like kind of check them a little bit. But for me, in this time that I am right now, like I used to have so much discontentment in like being single. I thought that was like a crime, especially like where I was in school. Everyone was getting engaged. Everyone. You know how many wedding like invites that I was getting? And it was hard in that season of just like, well, I'm bitter because I obviously did not do something right to attain like a husband or to have someone that wants to be with me. And I remember as I was going in my early 20s, that discontentment, I feel like, bled into everything. And so because I didn't have someone that wanted to be with me, therefore in my job, I was not good enough. Therefore at church, I was not good enough. Like it just kind of bled into different areas. And I'm thankful now that I've learned that contentment, especially in dating, especially in relationships and being single, like this, I see the value of like what Paul talks about in scripture. Like it is not saying y'all are married and have like literally the best husbands and your children are amazing, but I have all the time in the world right now to go out, go on mission trips, go do different church things, go out with friends, go like I can up and travel. Like the freedom that I have right now, I'm like, dang, if I had this mindset of just being like, I'm okay and I'm good, earlier, I feel like would have saved me from so much heartbreak of just getting into relationships with guys or talking to different guys, hoping that I would see the fulfillment in that. And the Lord was like, no, I need you to.
He isn't for you.
He's not for you, which again, if you have the gift of discernment, which is one of like my gifts, oh my gosh. It's like one day and I'm like, oh, okay, Lord, you're calling me out right now, which these guys are phenomenal and they're great and they will make someone happy. But it's just, I was not in the place. I was not ready, which now I'm just like, I'm okay, like where I'm at. And actually, like I got to see a proposal the other day and I had so much joy because I was like, Lord, I see you do it for them and you'll do it for me one day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hurry your schedule. I don't want to speed it up. I don't want to go out and like find the first guy that looks at me for 2 seconds longer than he should in the local Publix. Like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, Lord, like you have written, like, I used to say as a kid all the time, I'm like, I'm going to fall in love in Publix. I don't know why. I'm
going to laugh if that is how this all.
Lord, hear us now.
The problem is that you're at Publix way too often. I think that's the bigger issue.
Don't let the people know.
The amount of people that have told me, hey, I ran into Melissa at Publix.
I actually did a couple weeks ago.
You did? Oh, my goodness.
It was Katie. There was somebody else that was like, I saw Melissa at Publix. I'm like, of course you did.
Oh, gosh.
I'm pretty sure she has ownership.
Listen, honestly, I should get stock in Publix because it's just phenomenal. Their BOGO, you cannot like just.
That's the only thing I really like about them.
Yes. Also,
they're subs.
Oh my gosh, pub subs.
Yeah,
Mush is like the only place that Publix.
You got me on Mush.
Overnight
Mush?
oats. Yes, overnight oats.
They were
Listen.
BOGO a couple weeks ago, so I
You can get,
It's
like,
called mush.
It's
It's
called
called
mush.
mush.
I would never eat something that's called mush.
Well,
Hey,
you eat
what's the
Lunchables. You eat Lunchables on a daily.
No,
well,
I
not
do
now.
not.
You grew up on Lunchables, which I'm happy for you for that.
Thanks.
Because I grew up in an ingredient-only household. Like a little handful of chocolate chips was a delight in the household. Or like, you know, you get the shredded cheese and you just sprinkle it in your mouth. I don't know, just all the things. But I used to say all the time as a kid that I would meet my husband in Publix. And it could happen. But moral of the story is to say that I am content and I'm happy where I'm at. And I think as in general, we tell these young girls like, oh, if you wait like I did, and if you prayed like I did, and if you set yourself up like I did, you too will find a husband. And what that has done, especially in my life, is, well, I did exactly what you said, and now I don't have that. And now I'm upset with this area in my life, which is projected onto now other things of like, well, this part of my life didn't go right, which means this part of my life. And if you're like me, you go down the rabbit trail of like, well, if one thing's wrong, it's all wrong, and let's just throw the baby with the bathwater and just burn down the house. Like, it's just. But when we encourage girls to be excited where they are now, and guys too, like, listen, you have this time of freedom that you're never going to experience again once you have a family and once you have a kid or kids. And I remember when I turned 26, I was like, oh my goodness, I have all the time in the world to like do different things. And this is a time that I want the Lord to use me for his will and for his goodness. And it's not my will. Like, I just living in a constant state of like bitterness or anger, discontentment, whatever it may be, it just makes life so slow and dreadful, and you don't want to wake up in the morning. And that's definitely like was periods in my life where I was like, what is the point in all of this? But even in the moments, even you talked like asked like where I'm at now, even in the moments where I still struggle of just like, Lord, what do you want me to do? I'm still grateful and thankful for what he has done and what he will do. And so, again, in regards to relationships, the Lord has a plan.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that he has one. Because if it was left up to me, oh my goodness.
One last thing to close all this out, but I know that it's important when you are walking through something to be able to go back to Scripture and hide God's word in your heart. So whenever you're facing these things, you can bring those scriptures to mind. Is there a verse or even a passage that God really used for you as you were maneuvering through all of this?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do this. I do this when I'm like, I'm feeling this. So I'll look up like verses to help me. And I'll look into like the context of like what was happening at that time and why did the author write it like that and why did he address that. And one verse that I love, and I had written some down because I was like, this may come up and I need to remember. But like 1 Timothy 6, it talks about godliness with contentment is great gain. Meaning if I'm content with what the Lord has for me right now, I gain everything that I need. And it's through him. And he knows what I need. And so it made me think about the apostles the disciples, when Jesus is like, go out and do not bring anything with you. No extra clothes. They weren't bringing unlimited pairs of underwear to their island. Don't bring anything. Meaning whatever they had on them, they needed to be content with, and the Lord would fill in the gaps. And I was like, gosh, that is so good. Like,
That's so good.
He knew what they needed, and with godliness with contentment, meaning they were on mission for what he had called them to do, is great gain. They gained friendships with other people. They gained more for the kingdom because they were going out and doing what the Lord asked them to do. They gained probably nights where they had a roof over their heads to sleep, gained a meal, he provided and sustained them in their contentment, which again goes back to fruits of the Spirit. He was like, right now you are walking through this desert and you have no food and no water and no extra underwear. But you are going to have joy in this because you are doing my will right now. And so I think back to the disciples in those moments, I would have been like, what do you mean? Like, no water, no food, don't even bring an extra pair of sandals. What happens if I break a strap? We all know I break my shoes. Oh, gosh, all the time. And I love shoes. Why would I not want to bring like my 10 pairs of shoes with me? They'll fit in my backpack. But he knew that they would never have contentment if they had everything they thought they needed.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm going to bring it. So therefore, like, you will know who it comes from. Not from your doing, which is, again, majority of my life. It was, I did this for myself. I got this because I did it. Because I was perfect. But then what happens when you get you have the things that you want?
Right.
It's, I don't know. It makes me think about, like Colossians 1:24. It says, I am filled by him. Like, he fills in those spaces where I'm feeling discontent, where I'm feeling lost, where I'm feeling upset, where I'm feeling bitter, where I'm feeling just like, Lord, what is the purpose in this? And he's like, for you to meet with me, for you to see me, for you to, in the mundane, for you to be like, and I still have joy and I still have peace and I'm thankful and I'm grateful.
Well, it goes back to what Megan said.
Yeah.
Like, if we trust him with our eternity, why don't we trust him with our finances? Why don't we trust him with the big decisions? Why don't we trust him with our marriage? Why don't we trust him with our kids? Why don't we trust him with simple as, my finances are a mess and I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. Why are we not trusting him in his goodness?
Yeah.
And I think that's so good.
I think we think of it as separate. Like, we put him over here and then everything else, because we don't have this physical being in front of us. We're like, well, I got to do it. Like, I went to work. I made the money. Now, therefore, I need.
Right.
And it's so hard for us to be like, okay, Lord, but you got me the job. You got me you brought me my kids. You brought me the family. You brought me everything. But I keep looking, and it's the world we live in. Well, what do I not have? This person has this. So how do I get that? Do you know how many times I've been influenced to get a new skincare product, a new outfit, or whatever? But when I get it, I'm just like, this is not what it's cracked up to be. But you know what I do have? My high school and middle school shirts. And I have contentment in that of just like, this is all that I need right now, which I'm not wearing those out in public. I wear those to sleep. But I'm saying disclaimer, don't
So what you're
judge
wearing
me.
right now is not your middle school shirt?
No, Old Navy. I'm actually repping Old Navy today. Hey, Old Navy. But it's just like being just content, like where you're at
That's
and
good.
with what you have.
That's good.
So yeah.
That's good.
Well, we really enjoyed having you here today. It was really good to talk to you. Shout out to her, by the way. If you're really needing some good coffee, she's a great barista. So
Come.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. Seriously, I'm so proud of you, and thanks for sharing your story. And it's been a blessing to be able to be a part of your life and watch you grow, and just get to be blessed by you and your funniness and your loveliness and your presence. And I'm super blessed, and I know my family is too. So
I love you guys. Seriously, these women are so great. You need to tune in every single Wednesday.
Wednesdays we drop an episode. So take a peek out. Wednesdays are our days that we drop. As you can see, we now have video, so that's pretty exciting. I think that's probably the hardest thing for women is seeing themselves on camera.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
We need to be in the contentment of this is what God gave us. This is what we're working with, and it isn't changing anytime soon. So sorry
But
about that.
also know that the Lord will still work in your discontentment. Let's talk about Jonah for a second. Jonah was discontent about having to go to, what was it, Nineveh?
Yes.
Discontent. But God's mercy was like, okay, like, I'm going to let you go through this storm, get swallowed by a fish, but I'm going to bring you back to the start. We're going to try this again. He will still work in your discontentment. I'm not saying, hear me now. I'm not saying that once you have 100% peace, bliss, contentment, that you'll get everything that you want.
That's true.
Right.
He'll still work in the discontentment. but his mercy is what gets us to where we need to go. He brought Jonah all the way back, and he still had an attitude going into y'all better repent or you're gonna die. And then he left and sat outside and waited for the whole city to burn and crash. But it was, the Lord still has a plan, and he'll still work through it. So like I said, contentment is so great. It is so good because it brings a peace beyond understanding, and it makes you grateful for where you're at, and it just makes you trust the Lord. But don't be fooled. He'll use your discontentment to still push what he has, like, for
That's right.
others or for yourself. And it gets uncomfortable, but it's still good on the other side because he's there.
Yeah.
And he's here, and he's with us now.
That's right.
So
That's good.
disclaimer.
Well, Megan, I'm excited for our next one.
Yeah, me too. So join us for that because I'm not sure who's going to be on it.
We got lots of amazing women lined up for you. So tune in every Wednesday. And thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
It's a brand new day. Wake up every morning and say, it's a brand new day. Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, taste those clouds.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us for the Garden Diaries, a podcast by women for women dedicated to sharing our testimonies of our lives and to remind you that whatever your situation is today, just as Jesus does, we want to meet you where you're at. We're your hosts, Megan
And Brittany.
two imperfect, Jesus-loving women who share a desire to connect with women, share our hearts, and remind them they're not alone in their journey between two gardens.
No matter where you're at in life, deep in dirty diapers, eating Oreos on your closet floor,